It's Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. California's suit against Trump fails for now, while Democrat leaders threaten more riots. A big announcement on the 250th birthday of the Army. And Apple is the tech world's fat Elvis. Next on the AM Update.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it.
President must call back these ICE agents.
We need to stop the raids.
Did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed.
Invasion by a foreign nation, a rebellion or dangerous rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. Which authority is triggered here to justify the use?
Sounds like all three to me. We're not a college or a university. We're not interested in your woke garbage and your political correctness.
President Trump has had just about enough of California Governor Gavin Newsom and how he has handled, or not really handled, the riots in L.A.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible. We have, as you've seen, it was on most of your networks, people with big, heavy hammers pounding the concrete and pounding curbs, pounding it, breaking up and handing these big chunks of concrete to people, and they were taking that concrete, going up on bridges and dropping it into the roof of a car. They were throwing it at our police. They were throwing it at our soldiers that are there, and we got it stopped, and we have them in custody right now.
President Trump opening the door to invoking the Insurrection Act if California's authorities can't get their house in order. Meanwhile, a federal judge has declined California Governor Gavin Newsom's request for an immediate restraining order to stop the Trump administration from deploying military personnel to enforce immigration law. So far, President Trump has ordered 4,000 National Guard members and 700 active duty Marines to Los Angeles after immigration raids sparked protests and riots in the city and beyond. Here are what more California leaders are saying, flat out threatening more riots if President Trump doesn't withdraw what? Listen very carefully to Democrat Representative Norma Torres.
And this must stop. The president must call back these ICE agents. They must retreat in order for the locals to be given the opportunity to restore order, because that is what we are demanding right now.
Democrat Representative Norma Torres saying Trump has to stop the deployment of ICE agents. In case you thought that was a misspeaking from the Democrat representative, here's Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles.
We need to stop the raids. This should not be happening in our city. It is not warranted, and the only thing it does is contribute to chaos. This was chaos that was started in Washington, D.C. On Thursday, the city was peaceful. On Friday, it was not, because of the intervention of the federal government.
So did you catch what just happened there? Both that Democrat representative and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass didn't say that Trump needs to pull back the troops or the National Guard from Los Angeles. They said he needs to stop the ICE raids. They said that the ICE raids need to stop. The enforcement of law needs to stop. Very interesting phrasing there. Meanwhile, the FBI has identified and placed a man on the FBI's most wanted list after he reportedly assaulted a federal officer in riots on Saturday. He was seen in a viral video throwing bricks and other rocks at federal vehicles. Federal officials allege 40-year-old Compton resident Elpedio Reyna injured a federal officer and damaged government property while throwing rocks at law enforcement. Authorities are offering a $50,000 reward for any information that leads to the arrest of the Compton native. Hey, Siri, what is the definition of gaslighting?
Maxine Waters is an American politician serving as the U.S. representative for California's 43rd Congressional District.
Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence.
Oh, she is one of a kind, Maxine Waters. You did not see what you thought you saw. You did not hear what you thought you heard. And through those police officers that took bricks and other projectiles to the face, you did not feel what you think you felt. In other news, Immigration and Customs Enforcement announced yesterday they conducted their largest workplace enforcement operation since Trump took office. Over 100 illegals were arrested working at Glen Valley Foods headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. Well, looking ahead to this weekend, maybe you've heard about this. Walmart heiress Christy Walton paid for a full-page advertisement in a Saturday New York Times Sunday edition promoting No Kings protests across the country. That's the organization that's putting this on. No Kings, as in Donald Trump is not our king. Let's have a protest. The No Kings protests will take place Saturday, June 14th, to call on Americans to, quote, rise up in protest of the Trump administration. It's according to the group's website. It says, No Kings is a nationwide day of defiance from city blocks to small towns, from courthouses steps to community parks. We're taking action to reject authoritarianism and show the world what democracy really looks like. Well, I'm interested to hear. No, I'm not really interested to hear. I'm interested to see what democracy smells like, because I think it's going to smell like body odor and burning tires. So that is this Saturday when President Trump has this military parade. And I just saw in my home state of Iowa, there are at least 8, 9, maybe 10 of these protests that are planned in small towns as well. I'm interested to see what this actually amounts to, because this is either going to be a big nothing, or I think a lot of cities could burn. That's the topic of this week's poll of the week. You can go vote and make your voice heard over at Real AM Update on X. Go vote in the poll of the week. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was grilled by a congressional panel yesterday about funding for the military, but it devolved into whatever this is about what's going on in Los Angeles. This congressman thought he had Secretary of Defense Hegseth over the barrel on the issue of the Insurrection Act.
Cites 3 examples and circumstances for the Guard: invasion by a foreign nation, rebellion or dangerous rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, or the president is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Which authority is triggered here to justify the use?
I don't know. You just read it yourself, and people can listen themselves, but it sounds like all 3 to me. If you've got millions of illegals and you don't know where they're coming from, they're waving flags from foreign countries and assaulting police officers and law enforcement officers, that's a problem.
Well done, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who had a busy day. He joined in President Trump's celebration of the Army's 250th birthday at Fort Bragg in North Carolina.
We're not a college or a university. We're not interested in your woke garbage and your political correctness.
Listen to those troops cheering on that sentiment from Secretary of Defense Hegseth. Later on at that rally, it really was a rally, a celebration, President Trump made this big announcement.
We are also going to be restoring the names to Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk, Fort A.P. Hill, and Fort Robert E. Lee.
Renaming the forts previously known as Robert E. Lee back to its original name. That would be a pretty big accomplishment. Moving on, Missouri GOP Senator Josh Hawley plans to introduce legislation to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour, a position that aligns one of the most conservative Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill with some of the most liberal members of Congress. The legislation, called the Higher Wages for American Workers Act, would raise the federal standard starting in 2026 and would also call for an increase in subsequent years to match inflation. Vermont Democratic Senator Peter Welch has signed on as a co-sponsor. Hawley told CBS News, quote, "For decades, working Americans have seen their wages flatline. One major culprit of this is the failure of the federal minimum wage to keep up with the economic reality facing hardworking Americans. This bipartisan legislation would ensure that workers across America benefit from higher wages." So that is heterodox in the world of right-wing politics. What do you think about that? Is this just a ploy to troll the Democrats, or is this Josh Hawley trying to fully tap into somewhat of a populist era in United States politics? Let me know. Now, this before the break, let's go back to these protests, riots in Los Angeles. This is a liberal protester with a mask on her face to conceal her identity. And she was just interviewed. Keep in mind, she's got a mask on her face.
Could you spell and pronounce your name for me?
Yeah, it's Christina with a CH, and then Maimone, M-A-I-M-O-N-E.
You have your face covered. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, because there's been a lot of really fascist responses to protesting under this administration, and we don't really know who's going to show up or what's going to happen, so it's just a protective measure.
So she spells out her name, letter by letter, and then says she's wearing a mask because she doesn't know what's going to happen and she doesn't want her identity to be revealed. I mean, I assume she's college educated. God have mercy on our souls. When we come back, something that was unthinkable 5 years ago has happened. The most succinct beatdown of what's going on with California leaders. And Apple is the tech world's fat Elvis. Next. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles apologized yesterday after she criticized former University of Kentucky swimmer and women's sports advocate Riley Gaines over the weekend for speaking out against a Minnesota high school softball team who includes a dude pretending to be a woman. That team, of course, won the state championships in Minnesota. Biles wrote on Tuesday afternoon, quote, "I wanted to follow up from my last tweet. I've always believed that competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sports. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personally with Riley, which I apologize for." Simone Biles, by the way, she had said that Riley Gaines looks like a dude or something along those lines. She went on to say, quote, "These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful." So there is Simone Biles, Olympic gymnast who went at Riley Gaines over the weekend, backtracking, back. On second thought, I don't actually like dudes competing against females, but I think we all just need to be groovy and nice to each other, Simone Biles said. As commentator Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire pointed out, famous public figures issuing a groveling public apology and backtracking after publicly backing the trans propaganda, this scenario would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Indeed. 5 years ago, right around this time, was the Bostock opinion decision from the Supreme Court, which basically greenlit in the working world and in the corporate world, greenlit tranny madness to go to its full apex. And now just 5 years later, we've got a major celebrity, a major athlete, 2 million followers, backtracking and groveling after being lit up on the issue of dudes pretending to be women competing in female athletics. And now here's this. Victor Davis Hanson, I think, had the most succinct beatdown of Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, and California leadership at all over the issue of the ongoing riots in Los Angeles. Listen to this.
Final bottom line. If you take an oath to enforce the laws of your state or the country, and you see people swarming detention centers, swarming the streets, obstructing traffic, burning cars, trying to injure people with rocks, and you do nothing, then you are forsaking your oath of office. And secondly, Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, would you please tell us what is your position on 12 million people who entered the United States illegally, who are residing illegally at a time when the country is running a $2 trillion deficit, and your state at one point recently owed $75 billion that it did not have? What is your solution? Is it to let 1 more million in, 3 more million in, 5 more million in? What is it? What is your solution to find the 300 to 500,000 people believed to have criminal records? Just tell us. What is your solution? What is your solution when you have apparently violent protesters waving the flag of a foreign national country as a way of persuading us that we should not deport them when they are burning things and committing violence about the country they want to stay in, but waving the flag of the country they do not want to return to? What is the position of the Mexican government? Because I can tell you that there is a bill right now, the big, beautiful bill that will tax remittances, the $63 billion. And all this is going to do is give rise to voices who will say, I think we need a higher percentage to tax these remittances because they're not getting the message. The people who are demonstrating and violent apparently think that we're going to subsidize them with social services to free up money so they can send to Mexico on tax $63 billion, their greatest source of foreign exchange, while they run a $170 billion trade surplus, why the cartels kill between 60 and 80,000 Americans. That's an unsustainable situation, as are these riots. Bottom line, I think, Gavin Newsom, you took your recent effort to be moderate, centrist, your podcast, and you lit a fuse and you blew it up. Nobody in their right mind would ever vote for you for anything after you went into a volatile, dangerous situation and tried to pour gasoline on it by essentially saying you, the governor, will not do anything to restore order or quiet, and you sided with people who are committing violence against their fellow residents of Los Angeles.
Well, when you put it that way, Victor Davis Hanson, recently on the Daily Signal, with the most succinct beatdown of California Democrat leadership that I've heard yet. And finally, air analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. This feels weird after using and incorporating Siri into the presentation here today, as I did earlier. What you did not hear, though, is it took about 5 to 10 minutes for me to get 2 lines out of Siri. Because Siri is just that dumb. And in the world of incredible, they really are incredible and fascinating AI chat boxes, it is embarrassing to Apple. And it's embarrassing to this country, really, because Apple is our premier company. That Siri, its automated voice assistant, is so terrible. I'm sure you've heard videos like this before. Let me play this for you.
Change my nickname.
Okay, what would you like me to call you?
H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A.
You would like me to call you
It always cracks me up trying to make Siri say weird things, and it's hard to do. I did that just for fun late last week after it got through doing the thing that it does. I said, that's okay, Siri. Don't change my name. I changed my mind. So then Siri tried to change my name to Mind. Siri is so dumb. Nevertheless, though, I was assured that this week at the Worldwide Developers Conference, Apple would be announcing some upgrades and maybe some implementation of some more advanced features with its text and audio-based help. Well, Apple kicked off its annual Worldwide Developers Conference this week with an array of announcement on new features coming this fall to iOS 26, its latest operating system upgrade. Leading the pack of these announcements is its new graphic user interface announcement and enhancement called Liquid Glass. CEO Tim Cook and other Apple executives used words like beautiful, gorgeous, and delightful to describe changes on the horizon for its devices. And while they emphasized a fresh user interface and elevated app features, they also reassured users that the tools would remain familiar and accessible. So that was the big news coming out of Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, is that they're getting a new, shiny new graphic user interface. Liquid Glass, what does that even mean? It sounds incredible. Sounds magical even. It can't be a liquid and a glass at the same time. Basically what this is, it's a new paint job. It's just a paint job. That's all it is. This country's premier consumer tech company, Apple, has a stupid voice assistant. An embarrassingly stupid voice assistant. And they are already way behind in the AI arms race. And their big idea is a new coat of paint. They're basically the fat Elvis of the tech world. No real innovation. No real innovation. All we've got is a fresh coat of paint. Elvis, best I got, man. It's Unchained Melody for the 100th time. Still sounds great. Still got great chops and pipes. Apple, best I got is a new coat of paint. Looks great. Same stuff. There's no innovation with this company anymore. I know we've talked about this before. And I guess I should give them some credit, some legit credit. Their M-class processors integrated with their now computers and tablets and phones, those are really good. But that's about the only innovation they've done over the last 10 to 15 years. And in the midst of all of the news, all of the consternation about AI and integrating that into everything, and I know I'm supposed to come on here and say, hey, the sky is falling, AI is going to take over the world. It's coming whether we wish it to or not. So you have to deal with the fallout from that one way or another. But their big innovation, liquid glass. Hey, we got this used car and we put a new coat of paint on it. Please buy. Is it time to start expecting more from some of our leading, we're supposed to believe they're innovators? Because this isn't cutting it. It's just not. They tried to innovate a few years ago with their wearable goggles or whatever they're called. That kind of went nowhere. And now their big development this cycle is a new fresh coat of paint on their operating system. It's kind of getting too embarrassing all around when it comes to Apple. That'll do it for a Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.